Okay, so y'all's test is due tomorrow night? When is y'all's test due?
Tomorrow night.
It is tomorrow night? Okay. I couldn't remember what day it was. So tomorrow night, like at 9 o'clock, both sections are due. So please make sure that you are aware that both sections are due simultaneously, which means you have to do one of them before the other, right? You can't simultaneously submit one at 8:59:59 and then, be able to turn the other one in on time also. Please remember also that the essay, if you read the instructions, it'll be clear, but the essay questions, there are 4 to choose from, and you need to answer 2 only, okay? So only 2 count. And if you answer all 4, I'm just going to grade the first 2 and go. And please don't Google information to answer the essay question. I had the unfortunate situation where I had to mark down significantly some people's essay answers because it was like straight from Quizlet. Don't do that. Well, honestly, I spoon feed you the information that you need to ace those essay questions. So please use class materials. Not that Quizlet is wrong, but we didn't go over some of those words. So, and when you have exactly the same sentence as flashcard number 32 from Quizlet, it's clear where you got the info. So please, I want to know what your brain says about this using the information that we talked about in class. So there. Not that y'all are guilty of it, but I had to scold everybody so that so that you won't do that, okay? So also you should have had, I'll give these back at the end of class today, you should have had your grades posted from the 50-point assignment over the weekend. If you did not see that, when I give you back your paper today, I need you to check to make sure it's there. So if you don't see it, I'll have to record that for you. Any questions? Anything else? Questions? No? Okay. All right, so today we are going to talk about family as a social institution. So last Wednesday, we began this unit, which really focuses heavily on our course learning outcomes number 3 and 4, where we are making connections between all of these different things that we've studied from August until now. We're making connections between all of these things so that we are better thinkers. We can calculate things and we can develop our sociological imagination. Okay? So today, what we're going to do, everybody put yourself on silent, please. Today, what we're going to do is look at the first of the social institutions that we discussed on Wednesday, family. We're also going to link it quite a bit to the economy, if I can spell. We're going to link it quite a bit to the economy, which is the second or third, I don't remember. The economy was one of the 4 social institutions that we mentioned on Wednesday of last week, okay? So family, the way we define it sociologically, is really, really closely linked to the economy and religion and education too, but we're going to focus today mainly on the economy, okay? So, please note, and literally make yourself a note if you need to so that you'll remember this. Please be aware that on Wednesday, when I had the word family as number 1 on the list, and I had a dash and some stuff written out to the side of it, that was not a definition of family from a sociological point of view. That was an explanation of the needs family fulfills for society on the macro scale because family is a social institution. Okay? Do I need to repeat any of that so you can jot a note to yourself?
No, because you told us what family, pretty much.
I hope I told you that day. I just want to make sure because, Mallory, you would be surprised that sometimes y'all don't listen. So I know that's a news flash to y'all. Okay, well, good. I'm glad that you wrote it down. So anyway, I just wanted to repeat myself.
Because I got here.
Just maybe there's just like a couple of words anyway. Like we probably didn't write down.
Population continues.
Yes, those population continues, and then we raise up those children, right? Or rearing children. Thank you very much. I was just talking about that with my friend Sherry in the hallway. That you'll rear the children, put them through their socialization process. That's the function or the purpose that family serves as a social institution. Good. So yeah, that's from your notes on Wednesday. Today, when we write the word family as our major topic for the day, we are going to write the sociological definition Okay? Sociological definition. I don't know what dictionary.com says when you look up the word family. I don't know. I don't care really. I care about the sociological definition of family because when we define it the way we're going to define it here, it's inclusive. It's as inclusive as possible for as many different micro-scale examples of family as you can possibly conjure up. Okay? So family as a social institution is macro scale. And the sociological definition is a primary group in which the members live together. They live together and they're committed to living together. It's not just, oh, we're going to live together for this 6-month period of time. There's a commitment. It's not just on a whim. It's an assumption. You're committed to living together. Did I spell cooperate correctly? I did? Okay. I don't know. I either had too little coffee today or too much because I don't know how to spell things. But anyway, okay. So as long as cooperate is spelled correctly, it doesn't look like it is, but okay. Yeah, will you look it up? Thank you. Yeah, Ian's going to look up the spelling. Okay, so you cooperate economically. I told y'all that family is linked closely to the economy. So here's a major, key word right there that gives you how. Is it spelled right? Okay. Okay. So you live together. You're committed to living together. You cooperate economically, and you care for children. You care for young, should there be any. And this goes straight into the purpose that family serves as a social institution in society. A family is supposed to have children because we count on the family for a population to continue into the future. And the care part is the socialization process, right? We gotta rear those children, okay? So you care for young, and you also members of a family get a significant part of their social identity from being a family member. So flashback to chapter 4 when we were talking about statuses and roles, primary groups and secondary groups, and social identity. Members get a significant part of their social identity from the group. My marker's turning bad on me. Okay, so social identity. What's that mean? What's your social identity? Or what's mine to you? Yeah, my social identity to Amy is teacher, right? I mean, I'm somebody that you can say hi to in the hallway, and I'll say hi to you, and we can chat.
But if I see you in Kroger,
You're not going to say hi to me in Kroger, Nadia? I saw Coco works in Kroger, and she said hi.
well, maybe I'm saying, like, I'll come out not you specifically.
Right, but exactly. You're talking about the connection or lack thereof of social identity that we have. So you're my student, I'm your teacher, we're going to recognize each other as that, but we're not going to stop and talk about longtime family history and all the other kinds of things that you would with a family member who's in your primary group, right? So your social identity, you can say that from this word, we get things like our statuses. Much better marker, huh? Our statuses and our roles from that social identity. I come from a big family. And those were my sisters or my brothers. Sister, brother. These are statuses, and I put that possessive pronoun on it because those people are significantly attached to me and my social identity. We use possessive pronouns. My mom, my dad, my husband, my wife. These possessive pronouns are about that significant attachment that we have. Okay? And the statuses and roles are, any kind of family words you can think of. Baby sister, annoying brother, right? These are family words. Okay, so, questions? I think I'm done here. Let's look at this definition really quick. And I want you to tell me, yeah, I'm looking at it and I think I'm done here. Is there anything in this definition that you expected to be in this definition that's not here? Or something that is here that you're like, what the heck is this for? Anything? We definitely have to investigate what does this mean, the cooperate economically thing. We definitely have to investigate that. Anything else? Would you expect words like mom, dad, sister, brother to be in the definition?
No. I mean, not after being in this class for so long.
Oh, okay, because we're seasoned sociologists now, so you don't. So good, gold star. So we don't have any. We don't necessarily have to say mom, dad, sister, brother like we talked about in class on Wednesday when I did the air quotes so many times about the typical family. When I was asking y'all about the typical family, you were talking a lot about mom, dad, sister, brother.
Yeah, but that was micro scale, wasn't it?
That was the macro scale norms for who we think composes the macro scale family, right? So we do have norms on the macro scale, social facts on the macro scale that guide our assumptions about who are the typical family members. But here in the sociological definition of family, you should not expect to see that because, quite frankly, on the micro scale, is it always mom, dad, sister, brother? No. So the norm on the macro scale is mom, dad, sister, brother, because you need male, female to reproduce, which is a function of the family and society, and you need adults to rear the children, which is a need that the family on the macro scale fills in society, right? But this is a complete definition of the family. We don't need to say how many people. We don't need to say how they are blood or legally tied to each other. Did y'all notice that that's missing from here too? Sociologically, it does not matter. Whoever lives together with commitment to do so, cooperates economically, rears children together, and gets a significant part of their social identity from that primary group membership, from a sociological perspective, this is family. Okay? There is no, these people who live together are legally married. There is no, these people who live together have children who share DNA with them. There is none of that. Because sociologically, it doesn't need to be included. If we did include it, it would exclude certain examples that you can find in real life on the microscale, right? It would exclude some of those people. Okay, so any other questions or comments? I'm going to use this section of the board over here. I'm going to need somebody to take a nice, neat picture of it so I can post it online. But I'm going to use this section of the board over here to talk about the different kinds of norms for family composition. Since you get your statuses and roles or your social identity from families, and we said that the typical family has mom, dad, sister, brother, we need to talk about that composition when we discuss this particular bullet point in the sociological definition of family, the cooperate economically part. Okay? So, perhaps you have heard of this phrase before, a nuclear family. Heard that phrase before? Some of you have, some of you haven't. Nuclear here refers to the nucleus of a cell. Any cell, plant, animal, has a nucleus where all the most important stuff in that cell happens, right? It's where all the, when you see in the South Campus anyways, there's a classroom I sometimes teach in, and there's pictures of all these different kinds of cell cross sections, and then you can see the nucleus, and it's got all these different kinds of things. Got your DNA in there, and your mitochondria, and all these other kinds of things that I can't believe I remember the names of. But the nucleus of a cell is the most important part of a cell. It's got other parts around it, but without the nucleus, the cell won't work. The nuclear family is the core microscale unit. Let me say the core microscale economic unit in society. That's where this word nuclear comes from. It's the core microscale economic unit in society. I have a period here. However, this is not where the definition ends. We're just going to have a two-sentence definition. Okay? Make sure you make that clear in your notes. This is not where the definition ends. Because, as I mentioned, we're going to discuss the statuses and the roles that exist in these different types of families that we're talking about. Okay? So, there's a period here. This is composed of, a nuclear family is composed of one or two parents. There's a status. One or two parents and their children who live independently of other family members. A nuclear family, it's the core economic unit of society. It's composed of one or two parents, there's a status word, and their children, there's another status word. And those people live independently of other family members. Okay, so examine this word parent for me as a status and the role that goes with it. When I say the word parent, what do you know about the individual? Caregiver is going to be part of what a parent does, so we know some of the role. I heard somebody say mom and dad. And is there an age that we can overlap onto the word parent? We can't?
No.
We don't make assumptions about the parents being adults? The assumptions are that the parents are the ones who are in control. They live independently of other family members in a nuclear family. The parents are the ones in charge, in other words.
So basically, children have to keep, even though you're a kid.
Well, okay, so that's a good question. So even though you're legally a child or a kid, by legal means, like we were talking about, 18 is the magic number. It's an arbitrary number that we say in our culture. People are adults magically over just go to sleep one night and wake up the next day and you're an adult, legally. So, so yes, typically parents, the assumption is these people are in a position of power in the household. The parents and the children live independently of other family members. What does that mean? They're on their own. They're on their own. So it's a one or two parent. I should say it like this instead of should put the S in parentheses there, since it could be a one or a two parent household, and they live with their children and they live independently of other family members. This is the core economic unit of society. When I was in your seat many moons ago and learning this word right here, these two words were not part of the definition. That's how much society has changed. That's why my hair is this color. Yep. Society has changed, yes. So when I was in your shoes, these words, one or, were not part of the definition. This nuclear family is the assumption. It's the social assumption. Prices, I've erased the word economics. Let me put it over here. So economics is also, or the economy, is also a macro scale social institution. If the social assumption about family composition is going to be the nuclear family, the economy and the norms associated with the economy, wages, prices, exchange rates, all of those things, all of those norms that the economy establishes, those norms are linked to the assumption that the nuclear family is the core economic unit, and it's going to be composed of that typical description that y'all gave me in class on Wednesday. Mommy, daddy, sister, brother. That's what the golden books say that the kindergarten teachers are reading right now. Right? This two-parent household caring for children living independently of other family members, that's where the economy gets many of its norms. It's linked to this structure. So for instance, when we get these statuses and roles like provider versus caregiver, provider, traditionally, here's the word in air quotes, traditionally, provider is male or female. And traditionally, caregiver is male or female? Female. So typically this is male, typically this is female, at least historically, and the way all the children's books are written. Okay? So male and female. Are wages higher or lower for males than they are for females in society?
Higher.
Y'all don't need to look that up, but we don't need to ask Siri.
No, you said are male wages lower or higher?
Yes, are wages for male jobs. What do I mean by male jobs? Construction, roofing, yeah, or corporate jobs, that kind of stuff. Yeah, physical labor jobs if you want a blue-collar job or a white-collar job. So typically, wages are higher for quote-unquote male jobs in society, and female jobs have lower wages. There are social facts that guide this construction that are older than time. The gender roles that we have that associate males with provider and females with caregiver. What's the master status of a female? According to, can you decide what the master status of a male is and the master status of a female is regarding family and work from just looking at this idea here? So the master status for a male, it is a safe conclusion. It's easy to argue your point that the master status for a male in our society is occupation, their status as a provider. And the master status for a female in our society, their master status assumption is their caregiver status. They are going to be a mother, going to do it. That's the role, that's the function of the female. Many females are providers also. What's the feminization of poverty mean? There's a blast from the past, the feminization of poverty. What's that mean?
That are more inclined to be in poverty?
Females are more inclined to be in poverty when they are the head of household. What does head of household mean?
Single mother.
Single mother. If they are a single mother, if they are a one-parent household, and they are trying to live independently of other family members, and this is the fact of the assumptions that our society makes about them, bingo, we have another economic connection. The how do you spell this word? Feminization. Did I leave out an I-N someplace? Feminization. The feminization of poverty. Here's another economy word. Yes, I should probably erase stuff before it gets too much more confusing. Did you take a picture? Okay. Yeah, try to actually, if you don't mind, will you zoom in? Somebody zoom into like this portion of the board and then like zoom into that one, and I can post two pictures of the same board. You got it? Okay. So a nuclear family, this is the assumption in society. Is this reality most of the time? No? Nuclear families are not reality most of the time? Well, that's one of the reasons why this word one or these two words one or were added to this definition. Because over time, and yes, since I was in your seat, we didn't have it wasn't very common to find mothers living with their children independently of other people. That's been a trend in the last 30 years that has happened in society. And also, that's what your book will tell you, this is a trend that has happened in the last 30 years also. You see that more and more female heads of household, a head of household is somebody who is the independent person in charge of the economic cooperation that goes along in the family. Questions? We're going to draw some pictures now. And lucky for me, it's going to be stick pictures because I'm not very good at anything otherwise, but we need to draw some pictures really quick to illustrate some of this. At least it's the way I can maybe illustrate the way this nuclear family picture over here is an economic unit. Okay? I'm going to use the assumptions that you all said, that you all told me about on Wednesday of last week when we said what the typical family is. Y'all stick with me and don't use your cell phones. I see 3 people doing it. Okay. Yeah, you can. Thank you. I like that you do that. But pay attention to this. You need this for our last test. It's in December. Okay, let me give you a little bit of a legend of what these symbols mean that I'm going to draw. Any of you who do your ancestry or do like medical histories, you make a graph of your medical histories and chart who's related to you and how. These are the same symbols that you use for that, and we use in anthropology to do kinship diagrams. So a triangle is a male, a circle is a female. Whether it's a male adult or a female adult or a child of either of these sexes, you would interpret the picture and decide the age of these people, a rough general category of age of these people, by examining a picture. This is called the marriage symbol. I'm going to call it instead a sexual union. The equal sign, it looks like an equal sign. In genealogy and kinship, it means you have a sexual union or a marriage, okay? Let's see. Babies come from the stork, right? What you do, at least that's the cartoon explanation. So when a baby is conceived from a sexual union, you draw a line down from it. That's supposed to be a straight line. Let me do that over. You draw a line down from it, and then if the baby is a boy or if the baby is a girl, you would use these male-female signs. What kind of baby do you want?
A boy.
Okay, so here we go. So that would come from the sexual union sign. This we're going to say is the offspring sign because we could have put a female there, but we put a male instead. Okay?
Let's just say twins.
You want to do twins? That's excellent because I need to show you anyway because not everybody has an only child. So let's look at twins. You would just like fork that off and let's do fraternal twins, male, female. And you want to do triplets with them, you just keep on putting more little lines out and do another like this, right? That's really messy, but you see, it's getting really messy, but that's the way that you do it. You have one line coming out of the sexual union, and if those folks have 17 kids, then you just draw 17, I like facial expressions. Why did this woman choose 17? I don't know, but you have, this is the sibling line, so you connect it with siblings.
Okay,
And we
so
know
even
that there's
if it's
two
not
girls.
Twins, they go on the same line.
Do what?
Even if it's not just twins, they go all on the same line.
Yes. Typically, you put the children, and I'm getting way more in depth with this than we need in sociology class, but typically in anthropology class, you would do the oldest over here to the youngest, and just to confuse the heck out of people, some anthropologists put the oldest here to the youngest there. I don't know. Yeah, it's like seems backwards to me. But anyway, so yeah, this happens to be 5 offspring. You can do 1 offspring, you can do 17, or any number in between, or more than 17. Right? So, let's see, what else do we need? We need another couple of symbols, because here's that sexual union symbol. Does every sexual union last? So if it dissolves, or if there's a divorce, slash, that means it's ended. So this is a dissolved union. How do you spell dissolved? Are there 2 S's in dissolved? Okay. A dissolved union or divorce. You can put marriage here. You can put divorce down here. And do people live forever? No. So if you have a deceased individual, you would already have that individual drawn, and to show that it's a deceased individual, you would draw just a line through that. Deceased individual. There are more symbols that are so fun to put together like a brain teaser puzzle in anthropology class, but we don't need any more for Soch. We just need these few symbols. Okay, so let me show you how to put these symbols together into a picture of the nuclear family. Okay? So, we said, with our air quotes, the typical family is made up of what? So it's not the one parent over here, but the 2-parent part of that definition that is our typical idea of what parents are. So, here's the dad. Sorry, let me try to make just a clean triangle. Here is the dad with a sexual union with a woman or mom. Right? So that's how you would indicate that someone has a sexual union with another person. You would, is it male, is it female, and you put the equal sign in between. What did you tell me was the typical number of children that? Yeah, it's like 3.14, I think, just to be typical. It's an average. It's like a remainder, when you're doing long division. Okay, so let's give this nuclear family 3. So that's what it would look like. And how about if we do a boy, girl, boy? How about that? Now back to this nuclear family definition. This is not the only way that a nuclear family can be composed, right? We have the one or words in here. So what would that look like?
A circle and a drop-down box.
A drop-down line?
A main line. Yeah, with the 3 kids in there.
You want 3 kids for her too? Like this?
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
It is right.
Yeah, there's other ways to do it. Like, for instance, you could do this. And when we do this, what's the assumption? What's the norm about who the kids live with? When we do this, do these people have a commitment to live together anymore? No, when we do this, we make assumptions about this definition right here. When we see this symbol and we see these symbols here, we know that these are offspring. And when this happens, these two people do not live together with commitment anymore, right? Who are the children typically? What's the norm in our society? What's the default position for the courts? Who is going to get junior, junior, and junior? This one, right? Okay, let me renew their vows here. Marry them again. Okay, because these are two pictures of this nuclear family definition. We see parents, this generation, parents, this generation, parent singular, the generation below, children. That's how we interpret these pictures. Parents are here, children come from that. That's a picture of a nuclear family. Let's talk for a second, though, about this cooperate economically situation in that definition of family. Okay, and let's look at these two concepts that I wrote over here under economy. These are the traditional concepts of mom and dad, husband, wife, right? Okay, these are the traditional concepts of dad, mom, or husband, wife. Okay, so when we say that the wife is the caregiver, do we assume that that person has a job or maybe doesn't have a job?
She has a job and is working at home, being a caregiver.
Okay, so yes, so you're right on target with, she has a job. She might not be bringing wages in from the outside, but she has a job. Here's where the cooperation, the economic cooperation comes in, okay? So if traditionally the idea is that this is the provider is the one who brings in the necessary funds to pay bills. If this is the caregiver, what economic value does that person have for this unit if this person doesn't bring in funds from out in the wage earning world? If this person is a stay-at-home mom, stay-at-home spouse, what'd you say?
I'm confused on
The question is, what we're asking here, we're trying to look at the economic contribution that this person has to these people. Remember, a family lives together, so these people are living together. In a nuclear family, there's no other relatives other than these people to help economically. Okay, they live independently. So what is the economic relationship between all of these? Traditionally, the male is the provider, or so you told me. Provider means what? Go out into the world, it's a financial provider. You bring in funds from outside the unit to pay the bills for the unit. Traditionally, this person is the caregiver. In the traditional sense, does the caregiver have a job outside the home? No. So that's the example that we're going with right now. We're going with that 1960s sitcom picture of dad leaves for work and mom stays home and takes care of things at the house. Okay? Does this person, when they don't earn wages from the job market, does this person have an economic contribution, a positive economic contribution to the family? Or is it just a leech that sucks out some of the economic resources that the provider brings in?
They could put a dollar amount on the childcare that they're not having.
How about that? How about a dollar amount on the childcare that you don't have to pay because this person doesn't go outside the home, is not occupied during those hours after school, and so this person is the daycare, right? And I think didn't we look up daycare the other day? And it's like $200 a week for a newborn, and then it's like $125 a week when they're older per child. Is that right? Yeah. I mean, it's going to be different from Mississippi to Arkansas to Texas. To, it's going to be different prices, but it's over $100 a week. So if this person, so what would that be? $1,200 a month for these kids if they had to go into daycare, right? So since this person doesn't have a job, there's a $1,200 a month benefit just from not having to pay child care for these people. Let me tell you something. I cook at home a lot. And the other day, I wasn't able to do that, and I went to McDonald's. Quarter pounders with cheese used to be my favorite thing. I used to just love them, so I thought I'm going to get myself a quarter pounder with cheese. That sucker was over $5 with tax.
It's expensive.
And later that same day, I went to Kroger, and I always look for the little yellow stickers,
Mm-hmm.
and I got some chickens, like 6 or 7 chickens. I loaded my basket up with it for 69 cents a pound. The whole chickens that will feed my whole family with one chicken were like $3 and $4 for the whole chicken. So if this person doesn't have to go through fast food, and let me just tell you, you need $5 on the dollar menu too just to fill yourself up, right? So if this person doesn't have to, grab Little Caesars on the way home, you can save a whole lot of money on the domestic function that this person can provide to the rest of the family. What about laundry? What about cleaning the house? These things have an economic contribution too, right? What about the socialization process, teaching these people how to brush and floss their own teeth? Does that have an economic contribution when you don't pay the dental bills that are, could come from tooth decay later, right? What about if these people need tutoring? Who's going to do it? What about if these people need to be driven to appointments? Who's going to do it? And all of these things would cost you money, or would cost you a favor, or would cost you something. This person has an economic contribution even when it's not a wage earner. And that's the traditional, that's the old-timey, that's the typical economic cooperation that families have. But wait, can these people do anything? Do these people just suck the life out of the economic situation? Sarah's going, yeah.
It's like the life energy out of it.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly made that mom awfully tired a minute ago with all the things that she was responsible for. But another thing she's responsible for in the socialization process, do we really rear children, or do we rear adults?
Both.
We should be teaching these people to be adults, right? So these people need to do the laundry, and these people need to vacuum the house, and these people need to do the dishes, and these people need to learn how to cook, and these people need to learn how to pay bills, and these people need to learn how to budget, and these people need to look for marked down chickens in Kroger, and these people need to... So who delegates those duties to these people?
To be honest, a mother has more jobs than the father will, because men, when they're providers, all they think that they're supposed to do is work, and that's it. That's just one
Well,
job. That's
we
one
don't
job.
want to be entirely stereotypical. However, there is a role that goes with the status of provider. There is a role that goes with the status of caregiver. So we don't want to stereotype what the behaviors are. However, if we look at traditional gender roles, yes, this person brings this into this economic unit. And traditionally, if this person did not bring this into the economic unit, bring that into the economic unit, they brought in all that support. And this person typically brings recreational support, disciplinary support, rule enforcer, that kind of stuff in the typical sense, right? I keep on saying typical, I keep on saying traditional, I keep on doing air quotes, because is this reality? Not often. Long ago, yes. That's where we get this concept of nuclear family, the core economic unit. When families are organized like this, they have a much easier time with the economic conditions in a place, because they are designed with 2 adults, 2 heads, who can manage these people who are not allowed to manage themselves yet. Right? What happens with this person? Easier time or harder time? Much harder time economically. If a family has economic cooperation as part of its basic sociological definition, who is she going to cooperate economically with if she wants to follow this norm of society, the pressure for this norm of society? Who's she going to cooperate economically with? Service providers. She's going to pay for that child care. She's going to pay for that tutoring or skip it altogether. She's going to pay for the dollar menu and not ever really have nutrition that she could get, through other means. She's going to do all of these things, and probably the lifestyle of these kids is not going to be nearly the same lifestyle as these kids. The life experience, the style of life, the position in the socioeconomic structure is going to be significantly different if this person wants to follow this norm. And, that's the pressure that we have, do you think? Do y'all still get the same pressure that I did when I was your age, that you're supposed to be on your own? You're supposed to be able to have your own household. You are expected to do these things for yourself. You're expected to move out, at least in the United States. Would you say?
Said my mama, she don't want me to move out. 'Cause I was like, how do I get people from moving in?
Yeah, no, that's where I am right now.
No,
She-
but I was like, Mom, it's time for me to go. She was like, okay, Mary, what is it that you can do at your own house that you can't do here? I was like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's where this concept of the feminization of poverty comes in, because when we have a female head of household, when we have this one or phrase added to that definition of nuclear family over here, this person has a much more difficult time participating in the economic structure, because the economic structure evolved over time. Evolve means change. It evolved over time, so the norms in the economy fit this social institution called the family. And this is the norms for the family in the social institution. Remember, norms don't mean reality. But this is the norms. That's so easy to say, to set your own norms, but there is so much pressure in society to conform. There's pressure to conform to the standard. So it's easy to say, just set your own rules and follow, set your own norms. But that's what a rebel does in society. If you want to conform, then you follow that picture. Let me show you what is a solution these days. What is a solution to this kind of picture these days is this. Often you see these people, and this is not a nuclear family, this weird shaped thing that I've just circled right here. This is no longer a nuclear family. This is what is called an extended family. An extended family is a very common structure that you see worldwide. Apparently, Nadia, your mother, wants you to start participating in an extended family with her, because once you start having these people, she's probably going to want them to stay right there with her too. And you will see significant economic benefits from doing that. You will see significant economic benefits, because let's say that this person was the traditional caregiver and stays in the home, and this person is the traditional provider and brings wages in to support the family. What happens with this person now? Well, they certainly aren't independent. Are they entirely dependent on those people? Or does that economic cooperation free this person up to bring in some wages? But now you're not on the hook for all of them. And now you can go to school part-time or full-time. And now you can, pay for a car that is big enough for all of you. And you don't have to pay for the child care, et cetera, et cetera. And who's bringing in the food, and who's cooking the food, and who's doing the tutoring, and who's doing all of this with 3 adults at the household? Much easier. Much, much, much easier. So yeah, you see it. one thing that is evolving is because the economic structure is designed around this concept of the nuclear family being at the core of society. And that ain't easy for this chick and these three to live independently of others. You see norms changing, norms for that typical household are changing significantly from what it used to be. If you're going to have economic uplift, if your socioeconomic status, if you're going to experience uplift or social mobility, you often have to rely on additional family members. Yes.
Okay, so I'm kind of this would be my family here.
Okay.
Without, well, I have help from my mom and dad, but it's not like I depend on them. So it's me and my son who live by ourselves. I don't. Well, I work PRN, and I go to school full time.
Mm-hmm.
He's in high school. He plays sports. He's very active. So we're
Yeah.
always, he has to be somewhere all the time,
Mhm.
and he has to.
So you get that kind of support from your. So that's an extended family unit that is cooperating economically, and they're committed to do that. You described that you aren't living together with this generation, that you are living with this generation, but this generation has significant economic cooperation with you and your son. They don't live together, but they help you care for young, and your social identity is significantly attached to these three generations. So just because this one is iffy, this is iffy right here. Because you're not under the same roof, are you still family from a sociological definition? Absolutely. Just because you have one thing that maybe you can't check off the box. Absolutely. Yeah, and so that is a way that many people today, and this is an evolution in the United States for what the family unit, what family units look like within households. This, as a matter of fact, add another couple generations, add in-laws on both sides for a single household in Mexico, in Europe, in Asia, all over the world, except here really, you see this kind of pattern for generations. Because that's the way the economy there is set up and designed around, is multiple generations in the same household contributing economically. But in the United States, this was the social assumption. The economy was set up around that. That's why you have to pay for childcare. That's why childcare is a service. It didn't used to be. You didn't used to have daycares everywhere. Daycares are a recent modern invention because this used to be the nuclear family and the daycare worker was built in to the system.
So is the extended family also an economic unit?
Yes, family always cooperates economically, whether you're talking about a nuclear family, which is the basic core, the smallest you can get, or whether you're talking about extended family. Or blended families. Blended family is another. I heard somebody say, oh, are you drawing stepdad? No, I did not draw stepdad, but you can. We can draw stepdad. And stepdad is another economic contributor, right? Cooperates economically. What?
That would be extended family too, right?
Stepdad?
Wouldn't it?
So the definition for extended would just be
Multiple
having
generations.
three.
Yeah, extended family is multiple generations or people who aren't typically supposed to be members of a nuclear household. Like, for instance, if this person lived with her brother and those were the two who cooperated economically, this is extended family because it's not part of the nuclear family definition. If this person lived with a cousin and who had kids and they cooperated economically, that would be extended family. Got it? So if you look at this definition here, and you got some folks in the household, you don't have an independent unit, and you've got extra folks in the household other than the parents, other than the children, you're talking about an extended family situation. And stepfather is a parent. Stepmom is a parent. So that's how the nuclear family can include stepmom or stepdad. Right? Overextended family doesn't exist
my
as
nephew
far as
just
I
brought
know.
his baby mama and baby in the house, and she's pregnant.
Oh yes, we are going to talk about baby mamas and baby daddies and cohabitating and that kind of thing. Because look at this definition. I know I've messed it up with all these underlines and circles and all this kind of stuff. Is baby mama your family? Is baby daddy your family? According to this definition? The norm is they're supposed to cooperate economically. They're supposed to help care for that person. Baby daddy is a social identity. Maybe he doesn't live with us, but does he have to be family? Doesn't have to have all 4 of these things on the list. I would say more than one, because if you and I were roommates, we would cooperate economically. And I would probably have to write my name on the milk carton because I don't want you drinking out of my milk carton, right? We cooperate economically that way. And we'd live together, committed at least for the lease, but that doesn't make us this. So you have to have probably more than that. You know, if you and me and your son lived together and we cooperated economically, but you were asking me to babysit him all the time and this is not the kind of economic cooperation I signed up for, right? We're roommates. And so you'd have to pay me, probably, or take it off my rent or something, right, for that exchange to happen. So yeah, this is like, there's all kinds of economic conditions in here. And if somebody saw me out in public with your son and they asked me, who's that? Oh, that's my roommate's son. Not, it's my nephew.
We
Right.
would say nephew. Though.
Right? Right. I mean, some people would, because that's a concept called fictive kin, like the word fiction. Yeah, you can say fictive kin, like we say we're kin because we're kin, whether we share DNA or not. Right? Fictive. Kin. Let me tell you something. Blood is not thicker than water when there's rent due.
Right?
There is not. So the cooperate economically thing is like one of the most significant glues. You know, like did we say anything in this definition here about, oh, it's a primary group where the members just love each other. They just love each other. No. We got some rent being due here. That's what they do.
So even if it separates, they're still cooperating economically.
Yes. Even if this happens, wait, just a second. Okay, so even if this happens, so we assume that these people are going to live with this person after that happens, right? But is this person supposed to just fade away into oblivion, or do we have responsibilities associated with this definition here? That person's not going to do this anymore, probably. Maybe these people will do this with him periodically, but him by himself, me by myself. Right?
I meant for like the roommate definition, so that's why you would designate what was yours versus theirs, so that way it would be easier to separate.
Yeah, if I live with my husband, I don't write my name on the milk carton, like he can drink the milk, right? So there's that assumption. But if we could live together and cooperate economically because we signed a lease together, we're roommates. You know, if I borrow your car, you're gonna expect I put gas back in it, right? I don't have that. We don't have that assumption with spouses. No? I know. It is too. Maybe our husbands are related. Anyway, so yeah, family is not really so complicated when you look at just the definition itself, but there's nothing about love in here, and there's nothing about blood relations in here. There's not even anything about marriage in here, right? There's not anything about mom, dad in here. There's not anything about adoption, but it's all about economics, really. Essentially, it's about economics because this costs money. Living together costs money. Caring for people costs money. And this one maybe doesn't cost so much money, but it's an assumption, right? Questions? Do I have pictures of all of this? So far? Yeah.
You added stuff.
I added scribbles and circles and all that kind of stuff. So, by the way, just before I delete it, so I make it one more, or before I delete it, listen to me, before I erase it off the board. Since somebody did ask about what does stepdad look like, here's what stepdad looks like. So, if you have a dissolved sexual union or divorce that had children, and you get married again, that's how you would interpret this picture. Oh, this person and this person produced these children, and then after this happened, this happened. That's how you would show that. Or, for instance, and I'm getting too involved because I think this stuff is fun, if this happened, if that was what the picture looked like. Exactly. And did you see how easy it was for me to just kill him all? Yeah. So this was a widow. So the way you would interpret this picture, because of the way laws are in the United States, we don't allow this. That's a different situation altogether. This is simultaneous marriage of this woman with these two men. And we don't allow that in the United States. What'd you say?
Would it go for same-sex too?
Yes. Yes. So you would interpret this picture as this person and this person produced these children, this person died, this person remarried afterwards. The marriage did not dissolve, a death occurred. So anyway, that's you can use these symbols a lot to help literally illustrate points.
Okay, so it's not anything for adopted parents, right?
Yes, there is, actually, but for this purpose, this is adopted and this is biological, because adoption is, I make you legally my biological child. I mean, scientifically, no. Legally, yes. You are my child, period. I don't care whether you came out of here or not. You're my child, adoption-wise. So for the purposes of this class, we're just going to do it there. On a genealogy chart, or definitely like you're tracing your disease inheritance path, potential disease inheritance path. Like at UAMS, they have this huge printer that'll print out all these pictures. You would indicate an adopted person different because you're not going to inherit. You know, if this person's adopted, then clearly you're not going to look at these people's cancer risk to determine anything about yours.
You had genetic testing before?
Not me. Nope.
What's the sign for the adoption one?
Do what?
What's the sign for the adoption one?
It's the same.
We're just going to show it just the same as this. I mean, you could do. That's how adoption would look. Just a dotted line, but it's a kid, like it's their kid. Yeah. Okay. All right. So. So you see, marriage patterns have changed over time. We still have this dominant ideology, this norm that families have mom, dad, sister, brother, right? We still have that general idea, but that is simply not the case. So you see economic conditions changing. Remember we said that the economy sets standard prices for like goods and services. So for instance, a facet of the economy is childcare. That didn't always exist. It's a relatively new idea. After World War II, there was a period of time where women left the workforce and were in the household again, and then in the 70s and 80s, childcare became an industry that was regulated by the economy, and so that's where those prices came from, and you could literally put a dollar value on at least part of the economic function that the caregiver gave to that family unit. Okay, what time is it?
10:30.
Okay, what time is it? I should say in Central Time Zone. What time is it? Darn, is it really? I want to talk about marriage.
And that's not
I want to discourage you. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, I don't. I love my husband. I love him to death.
Let's talk about
I love him so much. I want to smash. I love him so much.
What is marriage?
Anyway, okay, well, we will get the definition of marriage. You can tell everybody that you know in Congress to come on Wednesday and get the